Hello, everyone. My name is Santana Rodriguez, and I'm here to present my capstone of a car accident heat map. What is this project? It's a web application to display accidents in a heat map using Google Maps' visualization library to add a layer similar to what you would see on popular channels such as Snapchat, where we see what is most active in certain areas. The data is used from June 2016 to June 2020 for the United States. They had the ability to show even like Europe, but I just only wanted to know about the United States. The heat map, uh, the heat map visually changes based on the scale of what is available, and I wanted to show based upon the severity. Looking at the data that Kaggle provided, uh, they gave certain things like latitudes, longitudes, start times, severities, cities, states, all the way from like A to AW, looking at it from Excel, taking up like almost 2 GB of memory. How it was done, uh, a lot of research was done when we started the semester, and a lot that helped out was when we were doing the spec. Although when doing the spec, not everything went according to plan, as some things that I thought could work ended up probably making it more complicated. So some ideas had to be scrapped. Some ideas made it through. What helped out was planning on where I would get certain information, such as YouTube channels, documentations, such from PHP. I used some uh, playbacks from Professor Mahoney for JavaScript information, and from MariaDB to understand how to get the information to the data to go to where I needed it to be. Uh, watch tutorials on how Google Maps would work in this scale, or just how to actually just put it up by itself. Loading the database eventually came to be, and was able to put it up for the web server to use, given by Carthage, which is really cool. And I'll present the demo. So I started off in Kenosha just to have a point where I know where something is. I provided 3 sliders, a year, month, and day, and to ensure that you want to look where the user wants to look, where they think they'll look, by providing a city and state, because sometimes there are cities of the same name in different states, which I kind of realized when I tried looking at Madison. I thought, why is there so many when there's only 3 in this state, in what looks to be 3? So since the data is only taken from about June, I was wondering why it wasn't showing anything in the beginning, because there just wasn't any. So if I just go Kenosha and to this, it displays the accidents that happened. I allowed for the first person feature to be allowed. So That way the user can look in there and see what was around that possibly could have happened. In this month, July, on the beginning, there was an average severity of 2.67, and it's showing that in that month, 6 accidents occurred, which is surprising, but probably Kaggle didn't have all the access to Kenosha, because I really feel like there's more. And I show the description and the severity of each one. What I would have wanted to do to make it more useful is to, when a query happens from, say, day 0 to pinpoint where you could find the accident, rather than scrolling through to find it. Because when there isn't one, it'll just tell you that there wasn't any there. And what was also interesting to figure out to use was using the Google Cloud platform. It allowed me to use certain things like its storage of facilities and things, but I didn't think I really needed it, since I just had everything on the server. What I learned and the problems from it. I learned a lot. This experience allowed me to learn a lot about the technology and myself. About everything I used was new, besides writing queries, and learned how PHP, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, jQuery, and how the Ajax approach works together, in which prior, when I was building this, I made a lot of mistakes because I didn't have that kind of right thought process. Found how I liked seeing how I liked the data changing, and seeing the front end and back end perspectives as to what maybe I like better than the other. I also was able to go back and learn how to use the debugger and debug in another way. When I was just debugging the website, I didn't understand how to use it when I took agile software development, but after having to really go in to learn it, it made a lot more sense, and was able to traverse different areas to see what was going on. And when going through and debugging my PHP errors, I didn't really have an Apache debugger. So what I did instead was just var dump what was going on to the screen instead. And where it broke is where I had to look even more. Would feel very overwhelmed sometimes, because I would just sometimes go into a rabbit hole of finding out how some people did it, and just hundreds of tabs would end up happening. Why I chose this idea? It really drew my interest in seeing how data changed over time, and that it was fascinating using Google as its technology that I never thought I would be using. And it's such a common tool that people use, and you seeing it be used in a different manner seemed really cool. And practically everything I did was new. And hopefully, after changing it a bit more, it can help other people. that say lawmakers that are in charge of the city, so that if they use it and see different time periods and see commonalities, they could go over there and see just why are these accidents occurring when maybe when some of them probably are preventable, but the structure of the roads are maybe not great. The planning of the roads are probably not great. And I just don't like seeing cars because I really like cars. My family is all about cars. My dad's a mechanic, and I really don't like seeing those kind of machines being destroyed because of some messed up problem. It seemed manageable. The amount of documentation available made it nice to read through and understand what I can do and then just piece things together. And I would not have to reinvent the wheel using Google Maps. Instead, I thought in the beginning that I have to make my own, but it was great seeing that I could just build upon it. Final thoughts. I was extremely nervous in the beginning. I noted that with Professor Kowalitz before school started, but he told me how at the beginning these capstones seem like a huge mountain, but as we keep on pushing through it little by little, once we get to the top and look down, it really, you just wonder how you got there. And as I was completing and progressing through, my confidence, I felt like it increased, and taking steps back to really show through the problem, I was able to see how a lot of what I'm trying to do is really what we've done before, but really what we've done before, but in a different manner. So it was really nice with how tough we've gone through the 4 years to know certain solutions to our problem, and to take information with a grain of salt, because I would run into the issue of really thinking that some dude was right on the internet and ended up trying to use what they try to do, and it was completely wrong because I wasn't in that right thought process of what I really should be doing. Because one person would say one thing and say it worked, and another person said, no, this is the right way. And it just made me feel like I was the one doing the wrong thing. I like how intervene into one kind of thing to make this project work out better than I thought it'd be. Yeah, but there is a lot of room for improvement to make this more useful and user friendly. As more ideas go through it to it. Thank you, the computer science department and Carthage, for allowing me to grow. Questions?
Santana, can you go back to your demo?
Yeah.
So I was looking at the map, and maybe it's just because the coloring, but where are the actual accident spots? Is it that
The
red?
actual accident spots are each one of these blimps.
Can you zoom in a bit more on that?
Yeah. So there's two there and the third one there.
Yeah, I think just with the coloring, it was a little hard to see that. You know, maybe making a bigger red dot or a red circle around that might have made it easier to see where they all were.
Hmm.
Can you
There-
try something like the city of Chicago,
yeah.
and just so we could see more?
Yeah. If I go to the beginning of the month, there'll be a huge amount of them. Just for big cities, it goes a slight bit slower.
Mhm. Okay, yeah,
Load every-
that's better. Yeah. So are these reported accidents only on major highways, or are they on the side streets as well?
they seem to be on also side streets
Okay.
because I was looking at uh certain days of Kenosha, and some of them I would know where they were. So it wasn't just like I-94,
Mhm.
but it's just whatever Kaggle wanted to show gave.
So Kaggle is that just an organization that collects data, or what is Kaggle? How would you
Kaggle
describe
is
that?
a uh, website for a bunch of data scientists where they just collect data and other people can use it.
Would you recommend other people who are looking for data use that? Was it easy to use or was it hard?
Yeah, it was pretty easy to use. Um, I just downloaded from their CSV file, and then you could just modify it from uh, SQL.
Okay.
While we're talking about the data, I have a question. I know Sophia and I both mentioned that we had trouble with like real life data being messy. I'm just wondering if you had any problems with that, or if your data was pretty clean. I guess how was your experience with this data set?
My experience with this data set, um, it was fine. Just it felt like it wasn't representing everything. Because as I was going through, say, looking for Kenosha, I'm like, these are a lot less accidents than I thought there would be in a month. When every time I would probably go around outside, there'd be quite a bit more, but maybe that's just my perspective.
What was the process of taking the data that you got from Kaggle and actually visualizing it on Google Maps?
Um, so what I had to do was first query the data and then send it out, and then put in the format that uh, Google Maps' visualization wanted it to be, in which it was lat and longitude together, and then I added the severity as a waypoint. It uh, but just having to make sure that it was in that right order. Uh, was a little bit difficult, but the real difficult part, I'd say, was understanding how to get the data from PHP to my JavaScript. That's where I kept on running into that rabbit hole of a lot of searches.
Okay, any more questions for Santana? Okay, very good.